We'll start with some of these NFL suspensions here, Drew. Let's talk about Zeke Elliott. Obviously, he had a little bit of trouble. I believe it was down in New Orleans where he had a little bit of a run-in with the law, wound up in handcuffs, but not arrested. I'm told there's a difference. They let him go afterward, didn't do any time in jail.
So that time I got pulled up to my parents' house and I had handcuffs on my wrists, and can I tell my parents that same thing? That
It's not the same.
I
It's
didn't
not
get
the same.
arrested.
Exactly.
No, it's an issue. There's no doubt about it. He seems like he cannot stay out of trouble. I mean, this guy's pushing every button he possibly can, and we all know the lifespan of a running back, let alone an NFL player, is very short. And what this guy's doing to himself is he's shortening his career even more. If this does turn out to be a suspension from Roger Goodell and the NFL, to be honest, even though this guy has such great talent, do the Cowboys stick with this? I mean, is it something that's like, okay, you don't have a long life. You seem like you can't find yourself on the field enough because you're always being suspended. Should they move on?
Well, more importantly, we haven't paid you yet. You're still on that rookie
True.
deal. I mean, they're not locked in long-term to him. So for all this to happen to Zeke at this point in his career where he has not had the opportunity to make the big dollars yet and lock into a long-term deal like Todd Gurley got, he's absolutely at risk because, again, the Cowboys could absolutely decide to move on. They have Amari Cooper who needs to get paid. They have Dak Prescott who looks like he's going to be the highest paid quarterback in NFL history here. We both agree he shouldn't be.
Right.
But they're probably going to have to pay him, right? It's just, one of those things that you have to do when you've got the quarterback you believe in. Zeke's almost the odd man out already. They have to come up with the money to sign this guy or the defense falls apart or the offensive line falls apart. The Cowboys have some difficult decisions to make going forward, and Zeke seems to be making it easier on them by getting into trouble like this because how do you trust him to stick around forever?
It's an issue. And unfortunately for him, he always seems to be the poster child of we're going to suspend him so we can stop everyone else from doing what he's done. And
when you've been that guy,
what I'm saying. He's already been it once.
You have to keep your nose clean at that point because Goodell's out for blood, right? I mean, you remember all the big legal spat they had and everything where Goodell wanted him suspended multiple games and
Right.
Zeke wanted to appeal and everything else, and he still wound up suspended. Now you're going and putting yourself in the same situation and really, honestly, you're putting yourself and the team in a bad spot here. I think he gets another 4 to 6 games. I don't think he deserves it. Again, he didn't even get arrested. It was just an altercation. He wound up in handcuffs, but they let him go by the end of the night. He didn't even go to jail. How are you going to suspend a guy for not going to jail?
Because they've made him a poster child once of you don't mess around,
He needs
don't
to be
make
an
the
example.
NFL, don't look bad. You're a superstar in this league, and just because of that, we're going to sit there and say, hey, we're going to prove to everyone just because we're not going to let you do it, we're not going to let anyone else do it. We're going to suspend you to prove it.
Absolutely. I agree with you, man. I think, again, it comes down to what you've done in the past, and he's on Goodell's shit list. Let's be honest. Goodell is sitting there looking at him like,
Yeah.
if something happens and I get the opportunity to suspend Zeke,
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. So he's put himself in a bad situation, and if you're Roger Goodell, I think you're probably licking your chops saying, okay, I'm going to get a little bit of payback for all that fighting I had to do to suspend you the first time. Does he sue again? Do you kind of fight this one too? I would. I mean, especially if nothing happened, but nothing happened last time.
Yeah, this would be more of a one I think you should fight. Like I said again, I really honestly think he will be, again, the poster child of quit getting in trouble. So that's literally what I think about it. I think they sit there and go, you're a superstar. Everyone, you're the face of a franchise. There's no doubt about it. Dak is not the face of the franchise of the Cowboys. It's Zeke. And
Tell me when the money starts rolling in.
well, until that happens, but can you sit there and say that
He's
Dak
definitely the most important piece. I mean, the offense still runs through the running
right
game
through
in
him.
Dallas.
Yeah.
Exactly. But how long till that changes? Again, you could go take a running back in the 3rd or 4th round and have some success, especially if the passing game is working. And it looks like Amari Cooper's on his way to helping them fix that. So if you're the Dallas Cowboys and you're Jerry Jones here, does this impact how much money you're going to give Zeke, or if you're even going to offer the contract at all?
I think it absolutely impacts. I think that's the whole point where we're talking about this. We're talking about a guy that's right in the cusp of making his biggest paycheck ever. This is the contract that every NFL player wants to make a big one on, and it definitely is going to make an impact. It's probably not the Cowboys that are going to give it to him.
I agree. I think you let him walk. And if it's me, I get it. I like Zeke a lot. I think he really helps the team out. He's the guy that you hand the ball to and you can trust him to get whatever yards you need. He runs with power. He runs with speed. There's few guys in the NFL that can do what he can do. But when it comes to paying this guy $30-40 million worth of extension money that Todd Gurley got, because he's going to want he's going to want similar numbers to what Todd Gurley got, you can't do it when you have all this other talent. If you were another team, if you were Arizona right now and you have all the money in the world and you don't need to worry about it, okay, I understand that. But there's other teams out there that are going to overpay for this guy. So you
No
can't
doubt.
compete with any of them. You have to
doubt.
let him walk.
Brian, what's going on, man? Glad you could join us on Memorial Day. He says, if Donovan McNabb is a Hall of Famer, then so is Romo.
Well, neither one of them won, so that's important. But we'll talk about Donovan McNabb here in just a minute. Why don't we go on to talk about another guy who we haven't talked about here in a minute? While we're staying on the tune of suspensions here, Drew, how many games would you give Zeke if you're Goodell right now?
For this incident, without being arrested, even though he was handcuffed for some kind of activity in Las Vegas, to be honest, it's probably going to be a small one, but I think it's just going to, again, he's going to be the poster child of this, and it's going to be maybe a 2 to 3 game suspension.
I think it's going to be 6 or 8. I really do. I think he's going to bring the hammer down on him. He's going to hit him with, we've warned you. You've been through all this in the past. You're embarrassing the league. I bet you he probably tries to go out there and hits him with conduct detrimental to football or football operations,
Something like that.
Whatever that catch-all clause is that says, I don't like you, I want to suspend you. I think he comes down hard on him.
What's going on, Jeremy? I'm glad you could join us. Even if it's not for a short period of time, we sure appreciate your love and support towards us.
And we hope you're having a good weekend.
And Brian, what's going on, man?
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about another guy, Tyreek Hill. Because, again, just like with Zeke, nothing is confirmed because we've seen all these reports that, there's some domestic violence issues. There's violence against minors in the scenario because they have the phone call or the voicemail where he was being accused of it. How far can Goodell go for a guy that, again, you don't have any concrete proof on anything? Do you think he just sits there and hits him with the hammer and says, I don't care? The fact that you're even put in this situation is enough to suspend you?
Yeah, I think it's going to be another one of those issues as far as Tyreek goes. I think he's definitely going to find himself suspended. Hopefully not out of the Kansas City Chiefs uniform. I really don't want to lose him as far as that goes, even though if any of these allegations are right, I believe in forgiveness. And I honestly, if Kareem Hunt didn't lie to the organization and Andy Reid, I think he still would be in a Kansas City uniform. Hopefully Tyreek has been completely honest with them and upfront about it and not denying anything. As far as games and suspension and how long it should be, real quick, hey Will, what's going on, man? Glad you could join us. Sharif, it's always good to see you, man. And the scenery's gorgeous. We got a pool in front of us, guys. It's beautiful here, I'm not gonna lie.
Absolutely.
Talking about games and how many games they're going to get if it's suspension, this is something they need to look at when this contract is up. They need to be looking and putting this more into written line and concrete and not leave it up to Roger Goodell and just how much he doesn't like a player, doesn't like what happened. There needs to be a guideline set to this. If it's is it first case scenario, is it 2 games, 4 games, 6 games, and then so on and so on. I mean, we look
or does the NFL throw up its hands and say, we're not the police? We're not the guys who need
Or
to
that,
be trying to
or
prosecute
that,
these guys
absolutely.
because your job's not going to go out there and do all this extra investigating or anything on what you do on the weekend and everything like that. Yes, I get it. If you embarrass yourself completely and you get caught, doing something terrible, they are probably going to fire you. But it comes down to, are you actually convicted of anything?
Yeah.
And before you're convicted, your job's probably not going to fire you, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So does the NFL just need to wash its hands of it? That's what I would like to see. I would like to see them be a little bit more, if something's happened and this is proven and we know you're doing something bad, bring the hammer, throw the book. I'm 100% in on that. But until there's actual proof that somebody's doing something wrong, you can't convict somebody for something that you don't know that they did.
Levante, what's going on, man? Will says Hill is gone for at least 3 games. Sharif is saying more. Will says, but it won't unless he didn't do it. It's going to be closer to 3.
Well, that's the thing. Did he do it? And can you ever prove whether he did it or not? I don't know that there's ever going to be a case strong enough built against him because a lot of it's he said, she said in these kind of situations.
There's not a video like the Ray Rice scenario.
Right, exactly. So if it's me and I'm Goodell, I'd probably go out there and say 4 games. Just, take it. It's not a slap in the wrist. It's a pretty significant punishment, but it's also not going to ruin a season. You're not going to sink the Kansas City Chiefs because he's gone for 4 games.
And I think it's going to be a little bit more because you sit there and you look at what happened with Adrian Peterson in his scenario, and I think that came down to proof that he did do it, and it was a year.
Yeah, I think it was.
It was a year suspension. So I think Tyreek's going to be looking at a little bit longer suspension. I think it might be closer to about 8, maybe 10 games.
Okay.
I think he's going to miss the scenario of.
And that's a good point. I didn't
season.
think about AP and everything that he missed. So that is a fair point with in regards to Tyreek Hill. I guess the question comes down to how much gets proved over the summer. Because if the police come out and kind of convict him, because remember, they went after AP. He was getting sued in civil court, I think by the child's mother, sitting there saying he was abusing him and everything else. And then on the other hand, he's sitting there saying he didn't do it. So that kind of, I think, played into it. I haven't heard any of that on Tyreek Hill. So unless some of that kind of appears, I think it's probably going to be a little bit more lenient than maybe 8 or 10 games. But man, talk about Kansas City catching more bad luck in that time you should be winning championships. That would just be terrible for
Let
them.
me catch up on some of these comments. Will, I have my phone in front of me. We have a screen that you guys can't see, so we're getting all your guys' comments. As far as Cabana Girls go, if they were around us, we wouldn't be talking sports. So
we would have taken the night off.
The night would have been off. Trust me, this is better this way. When everyone's saying, of course, Will saying, "This is America. You're guilty until proven innocent."
These days, yeah, it
it's
seems
very,
that way.
very true. And Brian says, "You're right. You can't punish someone without proof. Look what happened to Zeke."
I agree, and I think it might happen to Zeke again. We just talked about that. We think he's going to be in some trouble because, he's got that reputation of always a troublemaker. And Goodell, with the way the CBA is set up, has all the power. And I think we're going to see that being the biggest point of contention when the players get to renegotiate in, 2022, 2021? It's coming up next couple of years. So hopefully they don't strike, because I think nothing would hurt my heart more than seeing no football on the TV on Sundays. But
we would be crushed.
Exactly.
Dustin says the NFL seems to have a hard-on for Zeke Elliott. So I'm worried about what they will do over this incident with the bouncer. He also said, tired of seeing players punished by the NFL without any legal convictions.
And here's the reverse of that, though. Remember, for as bad as Ray Rice was, I mean, we all saw the video where, this guy's guilty as sin, right?
Right.
Where was that at? It was Atlantic City. They didn't even press charges on him. So as much as I want to sit there and say, leave it to the police, do you really want a guy like that getting off scot-free and doing whatever he wants and then coming and making millions of dollars? Or do you feel like there is some sort of responsibility with the NFL? It's a tough question. It really is. There's a lot of gray area because as much as the legal system should work, I think Ray Rice threw some money at the problem, and Atlantic City said, we don't need the headlines, so we're just going to sweep this under the rug.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brian saying Goodell has way too much power in the NFL and he needs to go. Well, guess what, man? They just signed an extension for him. He's going to be around for a few more years for sure.
What was it, a 10-year extension? 8?
It was, I think it might have been 5, but he already had, I think it was on top of what he already had, which wasn't ending anytime
he's making like
soon.
50 or 60 some $million a year and everything.
Yeah,
doing that,
it's a struggle for him in life, I'm sure. But one thing that we always got to put in perspective here, guys, is this is a business. These guys, this is how they make their living. And when someone like Zeke or Tyreek or Ray Rice or Adrian Peterson, it doesn't matter what the name is, and they go out and they make the NFL look bad, even if the majority of fans, probably like us and everyone that's watching this show, we're really not going to turn away from the NFL, just because of a couple bad eggs. But they are worried about those small numbers of people that aren't going to be able to watch or not going to watch a football game anymore. Think about the whole kneeling thing with Colin Kaepernick, how much the viewing dipped during that season. Now it's gone back up. Man, even though the NFL is filthy rich and don't have any worried about bottom lining out and being broke, dude, they did take a dip in income. They are not income, but revenue.
Viewership. And that's how you do it.
It hurt them. There's no doubt about it. Again, the reason why they paid Colin Kaepernick outside a lawsuit, they were trying to quiet
They were just ready to be done with it.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So I totally agree. And Brian says if there's proof, absolutely, without a doubt, they should never be able to play as a pro ever again. Again, I think it just depends on the crime. I mean, there's different levels of murder, right? You don't sit there and say, oh, you killed somebody, now you have to go to jail for the rest of your life. There's all kinds of negligent homicide, everything else. Just like everything, there are levels to all these crimes, and I think you need to take everything by a case-by-case basis and say, okay, what did they know? What should they have done going into it? What were some of the external factors? And that's how they need to make their decision, if they make one at all. Because, again, they could absolutely walk away. I know we're getting every ambient noise out there. At least the dog stopped. The neighbor's dog.
No, it's the cops. This is a terrible neighborhood, guys. We probably shouldn't spend all night out here. No, I'm kidding.
I hope those torches protect us.
David said some young players seem to be getting in trouble being rich with all that downtime. Just chill at home, stay in shape. You can go party after you make your bread and retire.
And I'm not sure how old you are, David, but that's a lot of experience talking. And a lot of these guys, you're 22 or 23 years old, in your entire life, no one's told you that you can do any wrong.
A lot of them come from very poor income or low income, very poor atmosphere at home.
And you don't have leaders. You don't have mentors and people who teach you how to do all this stuff. Absolutely. So that's, I think, what leads to a lot of these problems. You're believing that you're Superman and you're invincible and everything, and then all of a sudden you wind up in some handcuffs, and then maybe, hopefully, you learn that lesson that you're not. So
not all of them.
I get what you're saying. I agree with you. Perfect case scenario. Everybody keeps their nose clean. Everybody keeps their hands clean. But you got to remember, these are 23-year-old, 24-year-old millionaires that have made more money than they've ever seen before in their life. They've never come from anything like that.
Right.
It's tough to make a decision with that money. I mean, Drew, it's hard enough for us to manage what we have. Can you imagine having multiple zeros in your bank account right now? Not that you don't, but
Well,
can you imagine having all that money?
We would be doing this show in the Bahamas.
Yeah, a different kind of cabana, but yeah.
A true cabana. Hey guys, I mean, this is just speaking from the heart here. I think it also shows, as most of us are men watching this show. Raise your children right. Teach these kids to be humble and to appreciate what you have. I know we're not all rich. We're not all making millions of dollars here. And if you have
But you don't have to be to make bad decisions.
But you don't. And these kids have every opportunity to be taught properly by men like you and us. It's the right way to go. I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but I think it's the right thing to say.
I absolutely think you're right. It starts at home. It starts with you. It starts with us.
Yeah.
It starts with all of us. So, again, let this kind of be a lesson and say it's not going to happen to people I know in my life.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk about a guy with a big family himself, Ben Watson, a great role model here, but he's going to miss 4 games and worth of a PED suspension. Now, if you don't know, he retired. He said, "I'm giving up football. I can't do it." He went to the doctor, and the doctor said, "Okay, you've taken a lot of damage. You're mentally and physically, you've taken a lot of damage over this long career you've had. We want to give you some steroids, prescribed, legal steroids, to sit there and try to help you recover." So he takes them. And then all of a sudden he gets offers by multiple teams saying, "We're interested in your services. We want you to come back." Well, now you've been on steroids. You come back. You know you're getting that 4-game suspension because you know you're going to get drug tested.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to him. He got suspended for 4 games because of prescribed steroids to help him recover.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there is no forgiveness in that whole scenario when it comes to that stuff.
And there can't be, right?
And I don't think there can be. I mean, because, you can, not saying that this happened, but you can get a doctor to prescribe you anything. And, Brian, we're not ignoring your comment. He's asking us how do we feel about marijuana in sports. And that's another one of these things that, we could talk about here is you can get a doctor to prescribe you marijuana. Well, guess what? The NFL doesn't care about that. They don't want you doing that substance in their sport. As far as how I feel about it, I'm all about any kind of pain relief that isn't addictive. I mean, as far as I know, marijuana has no addictive. I'm blanking on the word. It's just not addictive. You can't get addicted to it physically. Some people do mentally, but unfortunately for them, I think it doesn't matter what it is, sugar, coke,
That's Josh
TV.
Gordon, right? Yeah.
I mean, they're going to get addicted to regardless of what it is.
Some people get addicted to fast food. I mean, everybody has vices. There's some people that just are not set up to kind of fight vices and everything like
Right.
other people are. What I'll say about marijuana is this. I think the NFL is a private employer. They have every right to sit there and say, don't want you to do this. Personally, I don't see any kind of big issue with it. I think it's one of those things that as long as it's available to everyone, and that's the big issue, a lot
Right.
of these states that some of these teams are playing in, it's not legal in, medical or otherwise. I think it comes down to as long as everybody can use it and we're on a level playing field, I'm okay with it as long as it's not happening on the field. It's not performance enhancing. Maybe
Right.
you can say it's a little pain reducing. You can take a little bit harder hit, whatever. You can play a little bit through some injury and everything. Beyond that, it either needs to be totally legal or totally illegal. That would be my point. Not some of this talk that, it's legal in Denver, it's legal in Seattle, it's legal in some of these other states. They need to be allowed and everybody else doesn't. I don't like that so much.
I'll let you read that giant comment if you'd like.
Was that Dustin's? 'Cause-
Yes.
Okay. Dustin says, if a player is accused of something, I think the NFL should absolutely investigate it. Players have to be held accountable. But if an arbitrator investigates and finds nothing that warrants any kind of punishment and does not recommend a suspension, then the commissioner should not be allowed to throw his power around. And then it comes down to the arbitrator. I think a lot of these arbitrators that the NFL would put in place or that the NFL would seek to put in place would also lean towards the NFL and the organization they come from. I know you want to get as neutral of a person to arbitrate as you can, but there's always biases. There's always stuff like that. There's still going to be this conflict, and I think there always will be. I think it all comes down to your collective bargaining, and the way they bargained it out is, okay, we get paid a little bit more, but Roger Goodell gets to decide pretty much part and parcel whenever he wants to suspend somebody. That's what they chose. I think as long as it comes down to negotiation, I'm okay with it. It didn't at first, it did this past year. Maybe they change it up in the next CBA. For right now, these are the rules we've decided to play by. Time to play by them.
Yep. And Ken, my dad, says drink can be addictive. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, never. I don't have a problem.
Do you need another one?
I do. We're moving on. Talking about Ben Watson here, Drew. Again, I think we both kind of agreed that he had to be suspended because otherwise people would retire and then unretire just roided to the gills every year. I think Ben Watson, despite him being one of the best and most upstanding NFL players, I don't think it hurts the legacy quite like Patrick Peterson. We talked about that before on a previous show. But I think it's one of those things that he still needs to do his time and step out of the NFL, because if you don't, everybody 25 to 35 is going to retire every season, get all roided up, get prescribed, get juiced up, and have that advantage on people, and then they're going to come back in the NFL and say, well, you can't do it. I was retired. I didn't think I was coming back.
Well, hopefully this was done right by Ben Watson and his agent and the Patriots. Hey, this was prescribed to me. When this drug test comes around, I am going to fail it. They were aware of it. But there's no doubt about it. Bringing Ben Watson into this organization, this team in 2019 season helps out. I mean, the Patriots are definitely hurting in the tight end position. And need as much help as possible.
Right.
And even though Ben Watson's a little bit older, there's no doubt this guy can still play. The reason why he didn't is because he just wanted to get healthy. But now he's got 4 more weeks to get healthy.
And he didn't expect the interest. He thought, the Saints
Right.
said, we're not really interested. We can't bring you back. We've got some money troubles of our own. It's time to move on. You're 38 years old. We're looking to bring on some younger talent and everything. So he said, okay, retires. Like I said, goes to his doctor, gets prescribed all this that's going to help him heal. And then all of a sudden the phone starts ringing, and the Patriots want you. And he said supposedly a couple other teams expressed interest in him coming and playing for them. So
Right.
what do you do?
Yeah.
If you're 38 and you have 3 or 4 people saying, hey, stay in the game one more year when this is your craft, this is what you do for a living, I'd probably do it too.
Yeah,
I'd
no,
sit there
absolutely.
and say, yeah, but let's face it, I'm probably going to get suspended here.
Jason says, let them smoke all they want. He does. Jason, we agree with you, man. I think if that's what they want to do, it's all them. But we got to remember, like Jake said, the NFL's a private employer. They make that decision. They decide if they want it or not. And I guess a bunch of billionaires who have all the money in the world, they don't want
Rich
you,
old men.
They don't want you smoking marijuana. That's just the best way it is.
You can go to a massage parlor in Florida, but no smoking.
Oh, yeah.
anything.
Yeah, you can get BJ's all you want.
Exactly. Hey guys, thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed what you saw. If you did, make sure you subscribe to our page here and throw us a like if you don't mind.
Guys, remember this is Sports Around the Bar, so grab your favorite drinks, join one of the fastest growing communities on YouTube. We can't wait to hear from you.